Hello and welcome to my very first One Piece list. Now when it comes to One Piece, there's a lot to talk about, from its lore to the powers to the adventure. One Piece is a wonderful story and it brings peace to my soul. But today, that piece. I always wanted, if I could, to make a top list on One Piece characters, but how should I do it? Everyone loves making lists on the overall cast, but I want to go in a more specific direction. I want to talk about One Piece's villains, and to me, they are some of the most integral characters to One Piece. If it wasn't for them, One Piece would not nearly be the series it is today. So let's honor them! I'm counting down my personal 25 favorite villains in One Piece. Why 25? Because fun fact, I looked through the entire story of One Piece and coming up with this list, I conveniently ended up with 25 entries. Now these entries are characters that have been villains the whole time. They always remained as a threat, so even though, for example, Sengoku was a great threat in Marineford, he doesn't seem like an antagonist anymore. He's more like an observer. Also, I'm doing my best to focus on singular threats and not groups of enemies, because if you take one character out of the group and hold him or her on the same level as singular threats, they pale in comparison. So no Doflamingo pirates, no Gecko Moria pirates, not even the Marines, since some members have single spots on their own. Spoiler alert. The only time I'll make an exception is if the group together has the same level of character and present an equal challenge to our heroes. And I'm not including any filler villains on here either, just the ones that were present in the story. I'm also going to rank these characters in terms of design, power, accomplishments, intimidation, and most importantly, character and personality. If all the villain does is show up and act cool but brings no engagement to the viewer or other characters, they're going to lose points. Also, as I said before, this is my personal list. If your favorite villain didn't make it on the list or didn't reach a certain rank, I apologize, but it's my preference. If anything, the villains I left out are honorable mentions, but I am interested to see what villains you all think are the greatest, so leave a comment down below and let's get a discussion going. But let's not waste any more time. These are my top 25 villains in One Piece.
Boo! You stink!
Oh, this guy. So when making this list, Hody Jones made it on here for one reason. He was the only honorable mention that met the status quo of being a villain. And even as a villain, he's terribly done. While the concept of energy steroids being integrated in his design is kind of interesting to see, Hody on his own just doesn't impress. Without his steroids, he's not a threat and loses any personality he has of being prejudice embodied. He barely leaves any impact on the fanbase or on the characters themselves. When his arc is over, bam, he's done for good. I think it's safe to say that Hody and essentially his crew were just there so that the Straw Hats could show off their new skills. And let's be honest, if you're there just to be the punching bag to the hero, you're not representing the side of evil well. Though all of that could have been forgiven if his character was the least bit interesting. He's a fishman and he hates humans because he thinks they're inferior to his race. The fishmen should rule and he should start by being king. Jeez, we've never heard that motivation before. Now, I'll give him credit. His plan to kill Otahime was well thought out and executed well. Honestly, I say that's his best achievement, but his motivation and character is a shameless ripoff of a much better villain. Hell, the story even acknowledges that by making Arlon Hody Jones's role model and inspiration for his prejudice. But where Arlon was more involved and intimidating, Hody Jones is, well, neither. If there were any saving graces, is that he made Luffy show us the elephant Gatling gun. That attack is pretty cool. But Hody Jones's chances of being a great villain were sunk from the beginning.
Oh, a mama's boy, huh? I'll be your mommy.
Alright, so this is cutting it close. I mean, we don't even know that much about these characters at the time of this video. And that's why they're so far down on the list. The only reason they're here in the first place is because of their accomplishments, design, and contrasting personalities. Let's start with backstory. So Edward Weevil is one of the 7 warlords of the sea. How did he get that position? because he gained the reputation by hunting down Whitebeard's old commanders. Why is he hunting them down? Because his mom told him to. Why did his mom order him to do this? Because she believes that she's the one true lover of Whitebeard, and Weevil is his one true son. What I find appealing in their motivation is its simplicity. Whitebeard thought that his crew was family? Screw that belief. Let's have a possibly crazy woman order her freakishly strong but dumb son to hunt the crew down. And when you have a character that's actually capable of taking on Whitebeard's commanders, it is intimidating to think about. That's what made them rank above Hody Jones, their accomplishments and actual intimidation. I also love their designs. Bakken has this crazy flail to her, but Weevil actually, in the strangest way, looks like he could be the son of Whitebeard, while at the same time, doesn't look like the son of Whitebeard. Whenever I see him, I keep second guessing myself. Oh, he's definitely not related. But wait, if I look at it from this angle, that kind of design is great and helps them stand out. But of course, their one appearance holds them all the way at the bottom of this list. I hope we see more of them soon so their characters are more fleshed out, but as of right now, we'll just have to wait and see.
Now, bitch!
Now, you puny fools, be terrified of the Catman, because he has poop on his jacket. Honestly, that's the best metaphor I got for him. So Kuro is, how do I say this, a card played too early? What I mean is that if someone looked at his overall character and put it in One Piece today, you could have a really great villain. Kuro has the abilities to be a villain on a larger scale, but the fact that he's introduced in a small scale role really lessens his potential in hindsight. Now this doesn't mean I hate or blame Oda's choice here to have Kuro in an early arc, but again, there's a lot to exploit in terms of his character. So what is his character? Kuro is a criminal and a master strategist. His plans never failed, well until Rubberman was thrown in there, but anyway, Kuro was a cold and calculated figure. He was able to fool an entire village by pretending to be a butler, and when an evil plan is put into action, it's revealed that it actually was the butler that did it. And in an act of pure evil following afterwards, he breaks a pair of glasses he got as a present, you bastard! But Kuro's greatest ability was his manipulation. You could tell that he was more of a planner than a fighter, and in some ways you could argue that he was the Grand Admiral Thrawn in One Piece, but that doesn't mean he couldn't both plan and fight. His weapons are ingenious. The fact he has blades for fingers in a fight really helps his design and cool factor. His frenzy attack is fierce and that one stance was terrifying to see as a kid. However, this is when his faults start to show. His attacks and background may be interesting, but they're never fully utilized. Kuro's fight with Luffy is entertaining, but he's not that big of a threat. It was his reveal as a villain, his true nature, and his weapons that were great, but in terms of execution, he's more of an obstacle rather than proper villain. Granted, his grudge with Usopp is interesting, since it's Usopp that's being targeted as an enemy this early in One Piece, but the result is still the same. Great concept, poor execution. But if that kind of mind, weaponry, and character was saved for someone in present One Piece, like a marine official, or warlord, or even an admiral, you have the makings for a terrifying enemy. But what we got was a villain that, unfortunately, isn't remembered a lot today. It looks like Kuro doesn't have any more cat lives to use to get back in the game. I swear I can hear Flying Panda laugh right now. Alright, so Jack the Mammoth, Jack the $1 billion pirate, Jack! The pirate that got bitch slapped by a trunk and is now hanging out with a little mermaid. Oh my god, where do I start with this guy? We should address the literal mammoth in the room. But Jack isn't really that intimidating or memorable. I like his design, but his character is lacking, and when you lack character personality, you're not going to stand out in terms of evil villains. Alright, so Jack is one of the 3 great beasts under Kaido, and trust me, we'll get to him soon enough. Anyway, Jack has a $1 billion bounty, a bounty that was unheard of in terms of value in the series so far. He has a mammoth transformation, and he was hyped since his name was mentioned. Alright, good start. So, what did he do next? He attacked Zoe and was able to fight the Mink Leaders for days. Alright, that is impressive. Got a little Alkaji versus Akainu vibe there. What next? Jack then used a poison weapon to take out Zoe, but before he could slaughter everyone himself, he went to try and bust out Doflamingo. Ah, I see. Wait a minute. Try? Yeah, he was able to destroy 2 battleships, but was driven back by Sengoku, Fujitora, Suru, and other marines. Well, that is impressive that he survived all that. Indeed! So, the only question I have to ask is, why isn't he that memorable? Well, shit. This is the weird part. Jack is capable of doing great things, and he's also one of the rare villains that never fought a Straw Hat member, but instead a different group altogether. And he was still the villain of the Zoe arc. But the thing is, in the few times we see him, he doesn't accomplish anything. We know he's a great warrior and can be intimidating with his, in my opinion, one of the better designs in the series, but his mammoth transformation doesn't really knock our socks off, and again, he hasn't done anything yet. He's the butt of a lot of jokes because he was hyped as this unstoppable killing machine, only to not nearly make the right impression for fans. Now I'm sure that when it's time to deal with Kaido, he'll get more screen time, and I'm hoping he actually gets an accomplishment. But for what we got, he was the result of a disappointment after getting too much hype. Kind of like a few movies nowadays. And his worst crime is that his character is just the stereotypical strong, silent, cruel type. Which doesn't mean that it can't be done in One Piece, but Jack is missing that personality, that one character trait that can help him stand out. Almost everyone in the series has that trait, but Jack, well, needs to do some soul searching. I'm hoping he's able to do something in the future, but for what we got so far, his expectations were certainly packed in the trunk.
Let's see who really has the better toys, shall we?
Behold, you weaklings! Don Krieg is here, and he's the strongest man alive! Oh man, I don't think anyone could say that Don Krieg is a strong and serious threat and get away with it nowadays. Now this isn't an insult to his character, it's just adorable that he's this confident when the New World is a thing. Now, fun fact, Don Krieg vs. Luffy in manga form was the first time I ever saw One Piece, and to be honest, he left a good impression. Don Krieg is a ruthless, arrogant conqueror who wants to prove that he's the strongest in the world. He may be smart enough to build an army, but that doesn't mean that he cares for any of his men. He's only out for himself, and by God, you get in his way, you'll pay the price. Now, Krieg stands out from other villains because he doesn't have any Devil Fruit abilities or Haki. What he has is battle armor, and by God, it may be the nostalgia that's making me just a little bit biased, but I love the design and practical use this armor has. Krieg is basically Iron Man minus the love and charisma and high tech, and the jet boots. And honestly, I don't think we've ever seen a battle armor like Krieg's in the series again. We may have cyborgs now, but not the armor. Damn, imagine that level of armor in present One Piece to deal with Logia Devil Fruits and Haki, it'd be terrifying. So, does this armor make Krieg formidable? Actually, yes. His attacks are dangerous, but compared to a Rubberman, they don't do that much damage aside from his boomstick! So it sounds like I love Don Krieg. So, why is he at number 21? Well, he suffers the same problem as other early One Piece villains. He's not remembered as much as others, and his personality, while it does contrast with Luffy, isn't exactly original. You've seen the Mad Conqueror type hundreds of times in other stories, and Krieg's not exactly bringing anything new to the table. Also, his track record at the end isn't making him better. He attacks a restaurant, only to be humiliated by a swordsman, and is then beat up by a 17-year-old. Thus making his hard-earned army disband immediately. Well, he tried at least. He's not the worst villain, but he's certainly not the best, which is why he conquered the number 21 spot.